All right, class. This lecture is for my friend Dahmer, and it's part of our study of rhetoric. I chose this book for us to study rhetoric because it's fun. It's a graphic novel. It's written by a guy who's a journalist, and and that's something that kind of lends itself well to you know to the study of rhetoric, because you're talking about journalism and giving people information and what you want them to do with it. And so we'll be looking at the main four aspects of rhetoric: audience, topic, genre, style, medium, purpose, and of course your author credibility. And as you know, all the other little techniques of rhetoric, like we studied in our poetry analysis, like symbolism, imagery, metaphors, alliteration, all that stuff are aspects of rhetoric. Diction, word choice. Okay, so I just want to start off with the cover, and we do have a little bit of art analysis we can do in this as well. But if you'll look at this cover, if you'll notice, Dahmer is situated in the center. Obviously indicating that it focuses on him. If you'll notice, everyone's eyes are closed but him, and then in the top left corner, that's the author, Durf looking at Dahmer. Everyone seems miserable, bored. One of the critics described the art style here as organically robotic, which is perfect for a serial killer because they tend to, feel little to no emotions except for this horrible, empty, sad, alone emptiness, which is supposed to be, torture, even more torture than being depressed. And, they only feel intense emotion when killing or when looking at the trophies of kills. So if you'll notice, his positioning in the center, and he's not even in an aisle with everybody else, puts him isolated from everybody else in a sense, because he's not in line, he's not in the row. We have this kind of blue, grayish, gloomy, depressing color focused around him, and then it kind of goes to this orangish red on the outside, and this, the normal, bright, happy colors versus the gloomy colors. Okay. So we talk about, rhetoric. This preface here that the author writes is a really good place to start. If you're doing the rhetorical analysis, analyzing the author's purpose, he has multiple purposes here, and he actually spells them out to you. So this wouldn't be a bad place to quote. One, what's his purpose? Well, he recognizes that this is a remarkable tale, one that wasn't being told by mainstream media. And that his friendship with Jeff, gave him a unique perspective. Two, he says that it was a cathartic exercise. You gotta think, he was friends with Dahmer. Even though their friendship was limited because Dahmer's behavior was so off-putting, and like the book says, that they kept Dahmer at an arm's distance and kind of socially isolated themselves from their group because they were scared of him, but there's probably a certain amount of guilt that Backdurf carries that I don't think he deserves to carry about, Dahmer's fate, what Dahmer became. And, if he had been more mature and knew more than a 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old knew, maybe he could have helped Dahmer out, so on and so forth. So if you imagine when he found out what Dahmer did and, then Dahmer getting stabbed in prison, it was probably a little bit upsetting, the guy was his friend. So, catharsis is when you purge yourself of emotions through an act, and he purged himself of a lot of those emotions telling the story. All right. So, some more of the discussion of topic, genre, style, medium is here, where he discusses why he did it in the graphic novel format. One of the things is that so many people have written about Dahmer, that he wanted to give it in a, kind of a different way. And being a cartoonist, this makes sense. So at the bottom here of page 10, he talks about his research. And, a little bit of the research that he did And all of that goes into author credibility, how thorough his research was. The fact that he mentioned he was Dahmer's friend and they knew each other and hung out, that also gives him author credibility. It's not like somebody making up stuff about Dahmer. It's, he was there. He was in the room with him. He hung out with him. We get a little bit as well at the bottom about, why he chose a graphic novel to express this. We get on the top of page 11, we get into a little bit more about purpose. He wanted to explain that this is a tragic tale, that and this is, I think, his main purpose for the whole novel, is that maybe Dahmer wouldn't have been, a serial killer. Maybe he wouldn't have killed like 17, 18, 19 people that we know of, if only the adults in his life, teachers, parents, his parents, Dahmer's parents, school counselors, all that stuff, hadn't been so inexplicably, unforgivably, and incomprehensibly clueless or indifferent. The purpose of this novel also is, prevention. That maybe if people learn from this story, that maybe they'll actually give a crap in the future, and future Dahmers may be averted, maybe prevented from, becoming full all-out killers if the adults and parents and people, pay a little bit more attention. I think he also boosts his Dahmer credibility when he states that, look, Dahmer was my friend, but the minute that he kills somebody, that's it. It's over. My sympathy for him ends. Now, this is the back of the book, and I know I'm jumping there, but I wanted to show you, if you're writing the essay about author credibility, there is a mountain of information for you to use here. One thing that he points out is this is a personal memoir. It is based on his own papers that he wrote in high school, diaries from high school, calendars from high school, actual things that went in the yearbook and the school newspapers, all that stuff. And that gives him a lot of credibility because, there's evidence that it's real. He also states that, like a good journalist, he interviewed dozens of former classmates, but he only kept the information if 2 or more people told the same story independently so that it's verified. Also, if you'll note at the bottom here, he tells you where he got all his information, more than 10,000 documents. So, even if every document's a one-page document, he read at least 10,000 pages of information from the FBI and from the FBI psychologists. Now, the FBI, they're no slouches in gathering information, so you can bet that a lot of it was good. He also gives you, Dateline, the novel and the interviews written by Dahmer's father, newspapers. He tells you everywhere his source came from. Now, and he even tells you how some of his sources are problematic. For instance, that, Dahmer's father's book, is problematic because, it comes from, the point of view of hindsight, which causes some problems. But anyways, one of the great things also as far as author credibility was he breaks down the entire book page by page to give you his source information, where he got the information from. And, that kind of transparency, if you're making stuff up, that kind of transparency isn't really, that's not something you would provide because you could be easily disproven by people doing just basic research on what you said. But, by this, he shows where he got his information from. All right. Thank you.